Evening. Are you with me? There's always a massive delay on these, so I end up starting talking, and then when the live stream is done, I'm already halfway through my little rant, my little chat. So I always give it a second here to load. Make sure you give me a thumbs up in the comments if you can hear me and you can see me okay. We're going for it today. We're going for it today, ladies and gents. 4 steps to start losing weight plant-based. Before we get into them, 2 very quick announcements. I promise you I'll be very quick. It's my birthday today, so I've got a quick birthday promo on my Ultimate Starter book bundle, which is my 4 best-selling products for weight loss there. So all you have to do is use the discount code. Let's see if we can get this to work here. Can you see that okay, guys? The discount code B-Day. That's B-Day. Yes, I'm 27 years old today. I'm going to be an old man soon enough, folks. 27 years old. I appreciate some people on this channel are old enough to be my parents and grandparents. But yeah, so I'm pretty much rubbing it in your faces, I'm sure lots of you, by saying, I'm old, I'm 27. You're like, Ryan, I'm 70. But no, here we go. Discount code B-Day there. You enter that in checkout and you'll save 40% on the starter book bundle. Just head over, to naturalweightlossmastery.com or click the little link down there just below this video in my bio. naturalweightlossmastery.com, discount code B-Day to save 40% on the Ultimate Starter book bundle for weight loss. And as always, one-on-one coaching with me to learn more and apply. It's ryandoescoaching.com. Once again, that's ryandoescoaching.com. Hi, Anna. Welcome to the chat. Let me know, guys. Give me a thumbs up. Smash a thumbs up if you can hear me okay in the chat. Just want to make sure we've got good video, good audio before I go. Classic Ryan Adams just ranting and raving. But hey-ho, let's get into it today. My 4 steps then for beginners looking to lose some weight plant-based. Without further ado, number 1, actually eat some vegetables. Realize what vegetables are. I have conversations every day with my clients where I have to clarify this. This is going to blow your minds right now. Green garden peas, sweet corn are not vegetables. Now, sweet corn is a bit of an exception to this because technically sweet corn can be both a whole grain, a vegetable, and actually there's a reasonable argument that you could suggest that sweet corn, especially those kernels from the cob, or on the cob rather, they're actually a fruit. So we can get lost in this, bit of a quagmire. But what I will do is give you some calorie numbers here to illustrate this right now. But people constantly send me food photos and they say, Ryan, does this look like a good plate for weight loss? It's always hard to say without context, but with my clients and whatnot, and many times they are classing things like garden green peas and sweet corn as a vegetable. They're absolutely not, and this is something you absolutely have to realize, because you can lower the calorie density of your plate, still feel full and satisfied because you're eating more vegetables, voluminous, and lose more weight. That can create that little change on the scale, that little margin, I should say, that you might be missing right now. So for example, on this, corn on the cob. So even if you do make the case that it is a vegetable, I argue overall it's a whole grain, but even if you do make the argument that it's a vegetable, for 100 grams it's 93 calories, which is not a lot anyway. And again, I want to stress to you here, corn on the cob, corn, maize, whatever it is, a wonderful food for weight loss. It really is. However, let's play it against some other vegetables here, some of my other favorite vegetables. So this is 93 calories, remember, for 100 grams of corn on the cob. 100 grams of zucchini, what do you think? Do you think it's more or less? Let's do a little game with Ryan, right? Game show Ryan Adams, higher or lower? It's 16 calories for 100 grams of zucchini, which plays 93 calories, 100 grams of corn on the cob. Okay, yellow bell pepper for 100 grams, 27 calories, okay, versus 93 corn on the cob. You see what I mean? So again, things like corn on the cob, definitely better in your mind if you play it off as a whole grain rather than a vegetable, and actually make your vegetables things like mushrooms, things like bell peppers, things like zucchini, okay, and dark leafy greens too. They're amazing for so many reasons beyond weight loss, but the likes of spinach, collard greens, okra, kale, so on and so forth. These are absolutely amazing. Again, garden green peas, not a vegetable, they're actually a legume. Now, I appreciate this can seem condescending to some of you who absolutely know this, but lots of beginners, again, this video is tailored for beginners, lots of beginners I see right now, they are classing things like corn on the cob, things like peas as a vegetable. And actually, calorie density-wise, they're not even in the same bracket. And so just by tinkering this one thing, if you're having garden green peas every day, if you're having corn on the cob every day, just by taking this out of your diet, even if you don't have much, adding in more genuine lower calorie vegetables, again, we're talking about fine margins, but over the course of days, over the course of a week, this can really add up in terms of your calories. I'm sorry to bark on about calories. I know lots of you really get umpty about the calorie thing, but they do matter for weight loss, and they are an important metric by which we can measure how good a food is for weight loss. So actually eat some vegetables, number one, and truly realize what vegetables really are. Can save you a lot of trouble right now, and I know there's a lot of minds going to be blown watching this, okay? Some of you, again, you might know this, but a lot of people are going to be like, oh, I never realized that. And this can save you every day 100 calories, 150 calories in some cases for some of you, and that can make so much of a difference, okay? Number two, have an appropriate way to track your progress, okay? You know, this is huge because so often we assume we're not losing weight because the scale says so. Now, we might be right, and the scale might be right, and it might be an accurate measure, but if we're new to this, if we haven't necessarily studied the scale before, if we've not actually witnessed how non-linear weight loss can be, if we've not thought about or learnt about, let's say, how those typical day-to-day fluctuations can affect our weight, then we are so misled by that number on the scale. And I see this time and time again. If this is you, I'm going to give you a bit of clarity on this right now. This is so important. First thing I want you to do, once you finish watching this video, so make a note of this right now, I want you to go to my YouTube homepage. I want you to scroll down. I want you to find the playlist. It's on my homepage there. There's something along the lines of, and I might be paraphrasing, Ryan's live streams talks or Ryan live stream Q&As. One of the subjects there, one of the videos I cover there, one of those live streams is entitled How to Weigh Yourself for Weight Loss Success. That's how to weigh yourself for weight loss success. So don't do this right now, but take a note of it. After this video, if you're really struggling with knowing what to do on the scale, knowing how to judge measurements, and if you're not worried about those things, you absolutely should be, by the way, because you could be, quite naive to these things right now. If you're assuming always that your weight is reflective of your progress, you absolutely need to watch this live stream video. So go and check that out. That's in my Ryan's live streams talk section playlist, whatever it is. You'll find it, you'll figure it out. I'm definitely paraphrasing, but it's something along those lines. So check that out. But in terms of quick wins for you right now, what I suggest is that you don't need to weigh yourself every single day. I think that's excessive. I think for some people it's going to drive them insane. So there's certainly some adverse consequences of weighing too often for some people. Some people have a healthy relationship with the scales. They see it merely as a monitoring tool. That's what I hope I can get you guys to. And therefore they can weigh themselves every day without too much trouble. But most people it's probably excessive emotionally. And also you don't really need to do it to track your progress. It's not that essential to weigh yourself every day. 3 times a week would be sufficient. That's my first bit of advice, so please take a note of that. Second thing I've got to stress here, and I've sort of alluded to this, but the scale is not always right. The scale is not always indicative of your progress. Let me say that again loud and clear. The scale is not always indicative of your progress. Why is this so important? Because so many people, are making false assumptions about their progress when they sit on the scale. Now, you might be thinking, hold on, Ryan, this has got nothing to do with actual tactics and strategy to lose weight. My friend, you are very mistaken. It absolutely does. I cannot tell you in what a regard, on what a pedestal I hold this subject, hold this bit of advice. Intermediates and advanced folk, they get it, they've got the experience, they've seen this pattern for themselves. You beginners right now, you need to understand how false the scale can be. Why? Because the body goes through day-to-day fluctuations. Ladies, the menstrual cycle, brilliant example of this. Perhaps the most I don't know the right language for this. I'm trying to think of the right language for this on the spot, but you're probably the factor that creates the most sensitivity in your body weight, probably above all else. You could argue sodium retention, but above all else, the way that body weight can fluctuate at different phases in the menstrual cycle is absolutely massive. I would say the body isn't as sensitive to any of the factors I'm about to mention here, but other things like water retention, subsequently sodium retention, or rather, if you have high sodium intake, then more water retention. If you're having a carbohydrate-rich diet, which again, most of my audience are, because carbs, again, so prominent with this plant-based approach, the good carbs, of course, I advocate. This can increase your water retention as well. Glycogen stores very full. You wind up holding on to more water than if you had a low-carb diet. Perhaps you had one meal very late at night the last night. What about bowel movements? I know, let's get into the nitty-gritty stuff. Bowel movements can make a real difference as well. So there's all sorts of things that can affect the number on the scale one morning when you weigh in. But yet so many beginners are misled by that number, thinking, oh, I'm not losing weight. What happens then? Do they talk themselves out of the strategy they're following? Worse yet, do they give up altogether? Do they make premature changes? Okay, it might not sound like an obvious piece of advice for a weight loss beginner, as I said a couple of minutes ago. However, you can see with a bit of analysis how integral having a good system for weighing yourself actually is, and how not taking that number too literally with an individual weigh-in can be so important. Because what's the adverse of that? What's the opposite of that? We tinker with our strategy. We change something, as I say, prematurely. We create all of this mental and emotional stress when we think we're not losing weight. Now, don't get me wrong. The scale could be right. And that's the obvious caveat here, isn't it? The scale could be right. And you might be thinking, Ryan, well, how do I tell if the scale is right? How do I determine if an individual weigh-in is a good one or a bad one? You can't. You can't. You can do this little analysis and you can think, okay, ladies, where am I at in my cycle? Or did I have a big salty meal last night? Or did I eat a bit later last night? Have I had a bowel movement this morning? You can play those sorts of games, but frankly, folks, you're never going to know for sure. You're absolutely not. And so this is why you must do multiple weigh-ins. And that's why, again, earlier on I said 3 times per week. And judge your progress by the weekly trend as a rule of thumb versus the individual weigh-in, because it's so unreliable. So again, check out that How to Weigh Yourself for Weight Loss Success live stream on my YouTube homepage in the Ryan's live streams playlist. That's going to give you more info on this, but I cannot stress how important it is to have a good system for monitoring your progress, so you don't give up too soon, so you actually know if you truly are or not losing weight. And also, it's nice to monitor your progress for the sake of, seeing how well you're doing, aside from just sort of troubleshooting and making sure, that weight loss is happening. But for your sake, it's really awesome to see that number go down week to week and to sort of troubleshoot those problems when they do come up. Now, again, another bit of advice that I just thought of here, I was going to wrap up on the next one, but this is really key because I'm always asked about plateaus. What I say to my clients is my general rule, there are lots of exceptions to this, as I said, it's a general rule, is that if your weight has not budged and you're doing 3 times weigh-ins per week, and there aren't too many other mitigating circumstances, such as you're taking antibiotics, such as you're at a certain point in your menstrual cycle, let's say PMS or early menstruation, which can really, really affect the amount of water retention people go through. If one of those big influences doesn't seem to be present when you sit down and think about this, 2 weeks is probably a good rule of thumb to say to yourself, right, if the weight hasn't budged all that much, there's a good chance I'm in a plateau now. But again, I want to stress it's a rule of thumb. So 2 weeks. Some of you have one weigh-in and you think you're plateauing and you give up or you change your strategy. One weigh-in, okay? And here's a weight loss coach who's helped hundreds of people with this stuff now, and I'm saying to you, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Now, again, don't get me wrong, some of you will enter a plateau, and therefore it is almost lost time. That 2-week period, or that week and a half period, or that week period, you're having couple of weigh-ins, but because I've said to you 2 weeks, you go an extra week, that might be lost time, okay? So again, there is a caveat to this, but you can't know for sure, as a rule of thumb, until 2 weeks have passed, as long as there's not any mitigating circumstances. So again, I think the tagline here, and the little motto I want you to take away, is don't judge all of your success by an individual weigh-in. Think about the trend. That's what we're looking for here. I know this is a bit cliche, but this is something so many people miss, okay? As long as you're on the downward trend, generally, you're doing something right. Could it be faster? Yeah, absolutely. And maybe some troubleshooting is required in that regard. But yeah, make sure you are correctly judging your plateaus, and that is why weighing yourself with a good system, a realistic system, and not having any illusions about what one individual weigh-in can mean is so important. This stuff is really, really key. Now, in terms of other ways to monitor your progress, things like circumference measurements around the arms, around the chest area, around the midsection, around the upper thighs, etc. These things can be helpful, folks. Things like before and after photos can be helpful. I think weighing yourself is the be-all and end-all. In my mind, even though it's deeply flawed, as I've just suggested, is probably the most accurate way to do things, I would suggest. Oh, and by the way, just a final tip on weighing. So do all those other things too, but I think your bread and butter is going to be the scales. Also, another point, as I just mentioned, is try and get a scale that goes into decimal points. This can sound a bit neurotic of me, but for sake of accuracy, I would suggest you don't have a scale. I've come across some of these, although not that many, frankly. Actually round up. So if you are, for example, 73.4 kilos, it will actually show on the scale as 73.0 kilos or just 73 kilos. You've got to be very careful with the rounding up and rounding down. You can imagine how you can trick yourself into thinking you're not making progress, or adversely, that you are making progress, but it's just this rounding up, rounding down thing. So make sure you have an accurate pair of scales that shows you in decimal points. Again, I know this sounds neurotic, but we're thinking about getting the most bang for your buck out of the scales, which can can be unreliable, as I've just suggested anyway, so we've got to make it as accurate as it can possibly be. Things like decimal points, things like not having scales that round up, things like not having an ancient old pair of scales as well. That really, 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 really important. Let's move on to the next point then. Number three, third step for losing weight for beginners. There's going to be a pretty quick fire live stream. If I've got time for questions, I will do some, but I can't promise them, folks, frankly. You have to stay the course to actually change. I cannot stress how integral this is for beginners, you intermediates, you advanced folk. You know this, but it's really, really important. You can lose weight. This is what I always say to my clients. You can lose weight, or you can fix your relationship with food and actually keep the weight off. Which one do you want? And the sort of people that are attracted to me and my weight loss philosophies here, my teaching here, and the teaching of the other people I talk about, very much those who actually genuinely care about their health, who want to keep the weight off, who are done with those short-term, quote-unquote, fad diets where fast results are promised, extreme exercise programs, etc. Yeah, I think, and that's not to say that fast weight loss is automatically bad or that you shouldn't do plenty of exercise. You get what I mean. But generally speaking, we're attracted to those fast results all the time. So many people on that weight loss roundabout, they're just hopping from thing to thing. I want to lose these 20 pounds in the next 3 weeks, or insane sort of statements or ambitions, goals like that. So yeah, you can lose weight. Yeah, you can lose weight and you can still have a bad relationship with food. You can lose weight as a temporary thing where you do clean up your diet a lot, and then you can get to your goal and you can slowly add more things back into your diet. What happens then? You balloon, you rebound. I don't need to go through the cycle. Lots of you already know this. You can do a flexible dieting approach and lose weight eating some bad foods. You'll still never fix your relationship with food. Or you can truly care about health. You can truly care about getting your mind right for long-term health and weight management, You can then work on things like cravings, limiting beliefs, and self-sabotage. And you can actually change you in the process of losing weight so that it stays off for good. Which one do you want? Which one do you want? You probably won't be aligned with me otherwise. This is so important. And I think, there are lots of tips for fixing one's relationship with food, but you have to stay the course to actually change. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. This is so key. So things like taste buds, taste preferences, things like the gut bacteria. The gut's so important for many reasons, but actually what a lot of people don't realize is the way the gut plays a role in terms of dictating taste preferences, cravings, food addictions, if you will, as well. Really paramount. A lot of people don't realize the gut, and this is a bit of a simple analogy, reductive analogy, is almost like a second brain in the body. It has that much power over your food choices, and many people don't realize this. So that's something for you to go and research. But right now, just realize the gut plays a really important role. Let's also talk about habits and beliefs and values around food. This is slightly more sort of medium to long term, but these things do genuinely change. A lot of you realize this from previous experience, but these things genuinely change. The cravings do start to fade. The taste preferences do start to align with more healthy plant-based foods when you actually stay the course consistently. That's the key word there. Consistently. I'm not talking about this stop-start diet thing. I'm not talking about a Monday to Friday thing, because what happens then is you can self-justify what you're doing by saying, well, I'm better than I used to be. I'm eating healthier overall than I used to be. At least I've got Monday to Friday good. But the vegan Ben & Jerry's at the weekend, the burger you have at the weekend, the couple of beers or the glass of, bottle of wine you have at the weekend, what you do with this is the best way I can describe this is you corrupt that good progress you've made. You threaten, it's a spanner in the works of all that rewiring you've done during the week or that period, whenever it was, that you had consistency. But when you actually stay the course and say no, but actually say no for a long period of time, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4, it doesn't take as long as you think is often what I say to people. And it's amazing the amount of my clients that email me on about week 3 and start saying things like this. But the taste buds really do start to change. The cravings, they don't go because you're human, of course, but they do start to fade away. Imagine what happens to your self-belief. I haven't talked about that yet at this point as well. You start to get more confidence that you actually can stay on track. That whole story that so many of us have, oh, can I actually lose weight? Is this for me? I can't ever stick to things. Last time I tried this diet, all these experiences and stories and narratives that we have in our mind because of those past failures with weight loss, the way that can distort our thinking and really become a bit of a crutch, in fact, those things can start to change, but they'll only start to change once you actually stay consistent, once you show yourself that things can be different. So that self-belief is important as well. But generally, my advice here, to circle back, is stay the course. You will actually change. You have to be consistent so you can get over the hump. Weight loss over the long term isn't about being perfect. You can go out for food from time to time. You can have a glass of wine from time to time. I'm not advocating those things, but I've got to be honest with you. Sometimes I do those sorts of things. I try and make it as irregular as possible, but I'm not perfect. So why on earth would I sit here and suggest that's what you need to do? However, the distinction is, when you're a beginner, you almost need to be perfect so you can get over the proverbial hump, get to this promised land where you've got momentum on your side, where the habits start to really cement, where the taste preferences do genuinely start to change. Please believe that if you don't right now, they really can change. This is when things do generally become so much easier. And again, it's not going to be effortless. There's still going to be challenges. There's still going to be temptation. But the more you get those reps in, it's like in the gym, right? The more you get that repetition in, the easier it is to keep cranking the reps out and not put the weight down. The easier it is to be in the gym every day. I'm talking about this from a food perspective. You can imagine how beneficial this is for exercise as well, okay? Once you get into that exercise routine, it might be really tough at first, but once you get into the swing of things, it starts to become habitual. It starts to become automated behavior whereby you aren't as reliant on motivation. You aren't as reliant on being in the right headspace to take action. It sort of just becomes a natural routine in your day. And that, as I say, it sounds a bit cheesy, is the promised land. Again, it's not effortless. There's still challenges, curveballs. You're still going to have a battle with your mind on some mornings when you're looking at your running shoes, right? However, it does generally become so much easier than when you're a beginner. So yes, weight loss over the long term, it's not about being perfect. You can indulge from time to time, and it won't really affect the number on the scale all that much. However, when you're a beginner, you almost need this period of I would say several weeks to several months where you really do this diligently, where perhaps, as sacrificial as it sounds, but it's absolutely worth it, you say no to eating out, you say no to social events just for a little while, just temporarily, so you can truly change and not risk interrupting what was the word I used earlier? Corrupting all that rewiring you're doing in the early and very integral stages of your weight loss journey. Make sense? So this is really, really important. Again, I want to use that phrase I used a bit earlier, and I know I've said it several times. You can lose weight, or you can fix your relationship with food and actually keep the weight off. I cannot stress to you how important it is to truly internally transform, as cheesy and woo-woo as it sounds, in this process of losing weight, so that when you do get to your goal, you're actually a new person versus still being old you who's done a diet for 8 weeks, okay? And then getting to that point, but still having lots of, I'm sure you've improved, but still having lots of limiting beliefs around food, still having the cravings, but you just sort of forced your way through it. If you can truly change in this process, it's going to be a lot easier in terms of longevity. So that's important. My fourth and final step to start losing weight for beginners that I want to share today, folks: work harder with the exercise. Some of you are kind of lazy, it must be said. You assume that, and I see this a lot in my space and what I do here, but you assume that just going plant-based is going to work, that it will be enough. I mean, there's lots of reasons why this is the case. I think there is a lot of misconceptions about this. I'm not going to get into those today. But generally speaking, I think there can be a naivety with new vegans and plant-based dieters when it comes to exercise. I don't see this in the keto, I'm not as close to those things, and I certainly don't advocate these things, but in the keto community, the paleo community, intermittent fasting community, I do not see the disregard for exercise that the vegan and plant-based movement generally seems to show. Does that make sense? I think here there is a naivety that isn't there across the diet spectrum. I think it's very homogenous to this approach to nutrition. I really want to stress, I think there's a lot of my audience right now that don't realize just how effective exercise can be for weight loss, and they think that it's all about the nutrition. The distinction is it's largely about the nutrition. I absolutely agree that nutrition is number one. It is the most impactful factor when it comes to weight loss. This is what the science seems to show. This is absolutely anecdotally my experience, and this is certainly confirmed after helping the people I've helped with this stuff on my coaching program, and then just for free online on Instagram, etc., before I launch Vegan Slim and Sustain. And so, yeah, this is definitely my finding as well, although that's, of course, more observational and anecdotal. But the distinction there is I'm not disregarding exercise. I'm simply acknowledging that nutrition is the number one. But the way that exercise can speed up your results, the way that exercise can break you through a plateau without you even having to think about changing your food, the way that generally at the more advanced stage when you do build up your fitness, you know, your metabolism goes through massive changes as well with this. Perhaps you put on a little bit of muscle mass as well, and so you can eat more food. The lifestyle that being very fit can allow you to live with food is really, really great, and you get to come up weight loss from this sort of abundance frame with food, and you can eat quite a lot to lose weight versus sort of minimal, trying to think about low calories all the time. It's not that one approach is better than the other, it's just that for me personally, I prefer a more fit lifestyle. I don't do tons of exercise by any means, but I'm always doing a bit of movement at least every single day, and that's what I suggest. Hey, it's not just weight loss too, fitness, well-being, mental health. This stuff is really, really important. Fitness, exercise is really, really important. So yeah, my basic point on this is work a little bit harder with the exercise. There are lots of vegans and plant-based dieters right now who absolutely know full well they could push themselves a bit more with exercise. A lot of you looking for little food tactics here, a lot of you thinking about doing the 50-50 plate or thinking of starting intermittent fasting. You might not even have to go to those lengths if you just push yourself a little more with the exercise. Seriously, I see this quite a lot. So yeah, again, there is a naivety in this movement about that. And that's it. Those are my 4 steps to start losing weight for beginners. Let me know in the comments down below which of these you're going to start working on right now. Maybe it's all of them, maybe it's just one of them. Maybe you're already nailing some things. Let me know what else has worked for you lately in terms of plant-based weight loss and what is helping you out right now. Thanks. I can see a couple of questions and comments in the chat, folks, but I really do have to go. As I said 10 or so minutes ago, I don't have so much time today, so thank you anyway for being with me here today. Hey, welcome everyone, and yes, it is my birthday today, just to confirm, and that's why I've got this little promo. So once more, let me plug my stuff here. Gotta pay the old bills. The discount code you enter this at checkout is BDAY, and that will save you, all capitalized, that's BDAY. That's an abbreviation for birthday, for those that don't know. Not an abbreviation, of course, a shortened version. And yeah, that will get you 40% off my weight loss starter bundle. Click the link down below in my bio, or just head over to naturalweightlossmastery.com. Learn more about the starter bundle there and activate your discount code BDAY. There we are. For one-on-one coaching, which really is the big enchilada, that's, you know, if you want the most help from me, if you want me to actually guarantee that you will lose weight here and keep it off, hire me as your coach. Go and learn more over at ryandoescoaching.com. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you everyone on Instagram. I got loads of messages today wishing me a happy birthday. I hope you guys have a great day. I hope this was useful. Let me know down in the comments below. Oh, and for anyone who happens to be watching this, you know, months or years down the line, of course, this is just something that's live right now. This discount is something that's live right now, so it won't be available in the future. It's just 24 hours only. So those of you who are watching right now or just recently after this live stream is published, it's a great time to take action on this. Thank you so much for your time, folks. I'll see you very soon, I'm sure. Take care now.